Greetings, degenerates. St. Michael here, and the Democrat troubles seemingly keep getting worse. Not only are we in the first week of a government shutdown they are mostly responsible for, they are also running like rats fleeing a sinking ship at the very thought that black people, especially black men, might be voting more Republican in upcoming elections, especially next year's midterms. Well, it's been kind of obvious if you really listen to what Democrats think. I mean, they're outright fucking racist. They can't understand the idea that, well, black people can't know how to use a computer and get an ID. This is real, by the way. This is how they think.
We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
And the alt-right, I hate really using that term, but the alt-right will scream and cry and say, well, the Democrats are inherently anti-white. They're racist against white people. Well, yeah, they are. But they don't care about race at all. They use race because it's an easy bludgeon for guilt-tripping people into bending the knee, especially those who have been through public school for decades, who have no idea the real history of Republicans were the ones to free the slaves. Thomas Jefferson even stopped the import of new slaves. President Jefferson. This is post-Revolutionary War and post-United States as a country. People don't realize that America's first actual enemy as a nation was Islam. The Barbary Pirates. That was Thomas Jefferson's, one of his first main priorities was figuring out why are these ships taking our people. We have no real reason to have a war with the Islamic world. And not only that, but Thomas Jefferson, as pointed out in Razor Fist's Abraham Lincoln video, he was in massive debt, so he couldn't really free any of his slaves because slaves at the time were property, and if you were in debt, your property was owned by your bank, your loan officer, essentially. So he had to go into more debt and detail into getting the amount he even got free. The idea that the founders didn't want slavery is true. They may have unfortunately had to make reconciliations for the idea that, these states would be like, these future states would be like, yes, we're Christian, we don't want people in bondage. And these other states would be like, oh, we're not joining a union unless we can keep people as property. So unfortunately, they had to make compromises. And here's the thing, you can't just have peace or have freedom instantly. I mean, they just fought a war to gain their own freedom. They didn't really want more bloodshed to cause the freedom of further othering others of God's children, because black people are. And that's how the founders viewed them. They were very most of them were very Christian. But you know who isn't Christian? Reverend Al Sharpton. I go by St. Michael online, and I'm more of a reverend than that race-hustling fucktard. He came out of the woodwork to remain relevant, probably push a book or a show, and ask why black voters, are voting more and more right-leaning. And ultimately just to blame Trump and white people for it, because I think that just sums up the clip I'm about to show you. Now, my response to it was this. How to gain ground? Stop treating them like pets and stop being fucking racists. Never forget, these people call us that while basically saying blacks are too dumb to go to college or even vote without government ID. And that is true. This is how the Democrats say. Every time voter ID is brought up, that's somehow racist. And they basically said black people are too stupid to know how to use the internet. That's what the Democrats think of black people. So yes, they are innately racist towards white people. They are obviously so. But the less obvious is how racist they are against Mexicans, Asians, especially because Asians are now considered white people. Figure that out, because they overrepresent in colleges because they are a minority, but they outpace white people. So the whole America is racist doesn't really hold water there. But they're also very racist towards black people. But what does Al Sharpton have to say about all of this?
With midterms a little over a year out, the Democratic National Committee is trying to regain that trust by engaging voters at historically black colleges and universities as the Trump administration continues to crack down on diversity in higher education.
Translation, Trump is getting rid of racist policies that discriminate against white people and force the albatross of did I get in because of my skin or did I get into because of my merit around the necks of black people, which has people becoming more racist because now we're thinking, well, that person didn't get in here because of skill or intelligence. They got here because they're black. That's not a thought most normal, rational people want to have. But because these people are pushing the boundaries of this shit, you get people thinking that. It's not a thought I want to have about a black person, but it's a thought I unfortunately have to have nowadays because of the Democrats and this DEI garbage.
Joining me now is Pennsylvania State Senator Malcolm Kenyatta, Vice Chair of the Democratic National Committee. And Mr. Vice Chair, thanks for joining us in studio. So
Happy to be with you, Rep.
Let's start with the DNC's efforts to regain lost ground with black voters. What's behind the idea and why do it during homecoming events?
Listen, you understand this. You have to earn people's trust. You have to earn people's votes, and you have to do it every single election cycle. You can never take the approach, well, this constituency voted for me before, or this individual voted for me before, therefore they're stuck with me. People make a...
That is the entire Democrat plan. That is how they bank on elections. You're gay, vote Democrat. You're a woman, vote Democrat. You're black, vote Democrat. You're Hispanic, vote Democrat. They exclusively bank on that ideology of you're this, demographic. You must vote Democrat. And the worst people to those who veer away from that are those that are within the fellow community. The worst people towards blacks are other blacks. You can't be, on time, or you can't talk like that because that's too white. It's crab in the bucket mentality, and it does far more damage to the black community because it de-incentivizes anyone from getting out of the ghettos, from getting out of those areas that are crime-ridden, drug-ridden, poor, all these baby mamas and their 3 or 4 dads.
A choice every single election. And a part of what we have to get out of the habit of, and what this new DNC is not going to be in the habit of, is showing up to people a couple of days before the election and saying, well, you're black, so of course you're going to vote for us. No,
they're going to keep doing this. They're absolutely not going to stop because they can't win on merit. They can't win on their ideas. They have to use tactics of the Marxist. Remember, calling someone racist was a Marxist idea to shut down dissent and to shut down debate.
We have to lay out an agenda, and I've been very clear that the Democratic mission, our message is 3 words. We have to talk about we're going to make life better.
So you're a Timu, Make America Great Again. You're literally ripping off Trump's ideas. Oh, these people are pathetic.
Working people and working families, and a part of what we're going to be talking about at these college campuses is about Donald Trump's frontal assault and attack on black people, on diversity and equity in this.
Yes, Trump, who attacks black people, even though he got awards back in the 80s and 90s for helping the black community. Just ignoring all that? Okay.
Country, and frankly, his assault on competence. This is one of the most incompetent people we've ever.
You really? Did you listen to Biden for 4 years? The guy couldn't string a sentence together.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put him.
And Kamala Harris was, well, she didn't have any sort of mental disease to fall back on. She was just an idiot.
Start with this. Prices have gone up, and families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more. And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up.
What the hell is that?
ever seen sit behind the Resolute desk.
Now, just last week, Trump was claiming that black unemployment is at a record low on his watch. We don't have September jobs report due to the shutdown. But Trump's claims might come as a surprise to actual black people in the United States who've watched their unemployment rate skyrocket to nearly twice the national average over the last 9 months. And to the more than 320,000 black women who've lost jobs in the Trump 2.0 economy. Still, Trump.
So we don't have September's numbers, but we know the last 9 months, which would include September. Okay.
Was able to make gains with black voters in 2024, especially young black men.
Yeah, how could this man who we call racist and Hitler and a Nazi constantly, every day, nonstop for years and years and years, ban him, deplatform? How could this man be gaining numbers with black people? Maybe because your policies suck?
Do Democrats need a new message to bring them back? And what does that sound like?
It sounds like them not doing anything and just doubling down on racism and name-calling.
We should be very clear. What happened in any previous election tells you nothing about the future.
That is absolute bullshit because it shows the trajectory of voting patterns and where people are in the election. Kamala Harris ran almost exclusively on fucking abortion, and that is a losing issue. Even amongst women, it's a losing issue. More people are becoming pro-life every few years because of things called science and biology and all this shit. So, no.
Folks have a right to change their minds. And a part of what a lot of people thought was that Donald Trump was going to actually do what he said, that he's going to be working to lower costs, right, that he was going to get us out of a lot of these foreign wars and entanglements.
He's actively right now working on peace in the Middle East. Hamas has agreed to a partiality of the plan laid out by President Donald Trump. I don't really have faith in Hamas because, you know, they're essentially just a terrorist cell that runs the government. But, you know, you don't get peace like that. He's actively working for peace, whereas Biden basically stoked the flames of what is the Ukraine-Russia war.
Entanglements on day one, as he said. He's actually done the opposite of that. I said the Democratic Party's message is to make life better. He has spent every single day making life worse. Take the shutdown that's happening right.
The shutdown that the Democrats are responsible for because they didn't get money for illegal immigrants and circumcision in Africa.
Right now, black people are going to be impacted in substantial ways. If you talk about the Obamacare insurance marketplace.
Obamacare was garbage. The "if you love your doctor, you will keep it" was a lie.
And losing the tax credits, which Republicans are so intent to keep people from being able to afford health care that they shut down the whole government. I mean, people should...
That is a massive lie. The Democrats shut down because they couldn't get illegal immigrants health care.
Really just step back and think about that. These people are so intent on making sure you can't go to the doctor that they were willing to shut down the...
Also, keep in mind, Trump is actually trying to get prescription drug costs down, which says that they could have always, but decided not to. But again, this guy has no idea what he's talking about.
Entire government.
That is the sticky point on this, the health care issue.
It's the whole thing. And when you went through, Rev, in great detail, the unemployment numbers, that is a canary in the coal mine. If you look at every recession that has ever happened, when you start to see black...
They've been under Democrat presidencies. FDR actually extended the Great Depression by a couple of years because of his New Deal.
Unemployment, which always is a tick or two higher, when you start to see those numbers explode as we've seen them explode, that is a canary in the coal mine for where this economy is going. So Donald Trump is busy trying to put his face on coins, while the entire value of the dollar and the entire economy is falling in the toilet because of his leadership.
Again, were you asleep for 4 years under Biden?
He would rather send ICE agents to detain black people.
Detain criminals. that are running rampant and allowed to walk free because of district judges and Democrat policy.
And do everything he can to make sure black folks have a solid education and that people have access to gainful employment.
We've spent billions on education and test scores never go up.
The administration is pressuring 9 colleges
And that's across the board, not just for blacks, for everyone.
and universities to sign a pledge that they'll submit to its educational priorities or risk losing federal funding.
You mean like how Biden had you submit to a jab or you lose your job?
Those priorities include banning the use of sex and gender in admissions, limiting the number of international students, and cracking down on curriculum they say are hostile to conservative ideas.
You mean, again, allowing people to get in based on merit, not what they have in their pants or what pigmentation they have? You mean allowing more Americans to go to school and, allowing more Americans to get jobs post-college with degrees that matter, not in gender studies in Albania? You mean that? How about we don't straddle our kids with any more debt? Tens of thousands of dollars are spent a year on tuition, and it's all worthless. It's all based on nothing degrees. You're better off going and just becoming an electrician, honestly.
Are you worried about what this could mean to HBCUs, which already walk a tightrope when it comes to money?
Listen, I'm worried about too many institutions, big institutions, law firms, bending the knee to this coward. And I keep saying, I'm not bending the knee to a...
You mean like how Nancy Pelosi bent the knee to a criminal who died over a fentanyl overdose?
Timu dictator with swollen ankles, and these universities need to not do it as well. And let me tell you what we're doing in Pennsylvania. Myself and Representative Rick Krajewski have introduced legislation called the Pennsylvania Academic Freedom Act, where we are making it clear that if Pennsylvania universities sign that Trump pledge, that extortion from this administration, they ought not receive state funds. We have to be in a position where we stand up with a clear voice that we do not want the president trying to decide who gets into universities. He shouldn't have gotten into University of Penn. Now he's trying to decide who gets in. He got in because
he wants it fair. You have been the ones deciding who gets in and who gets out. For years with DEI, you push the idea that you need a certain criteria or a certain number of this group or that group to get in order to get funding.
His daddy had a lot of money, and we look at how he speaks.
His daddy having a lot of money didn't fucking mean anything. That didn't guarantee his success. He still made his money on his own, fails and successes on his own.
We look at the agenda that has been put forward by this education. He clearly learned nothing during his time at that university.
Malcolm Kenyatta, good to always see you and have you with us. Thank you for being here. Up next.
Oh, that was stupid. But here's the thing. All of that really just means nothing because the Democrats will not learn. But what is the main reason why Trump is getting more and more black support, especially as a Republican? Well, jobs is big. It very much impacts the inner city. And the idea that Trump is a racist is just tired. It's old. And Democrats have been using the idea that insert Republican is a Nazi or Hitler since the 50s. Even milquetoast Mitt Romney was tar and feathered with that label. And Trump knows what has been going on. He's brash. He's a bit hyperbolic sometimes. He'll say things and you're like, man, that... Whatever. He's a New York showman. But he's not wrong. There's a massive problem with blacks in the inner cities. There's massive amounts of unemployment, gang violence, drug use, single mothers, and this goes into what I talked about with marriage. But the black community needs to stop with this crab in the bucket mentality of you can't talk this way, you can't walk this way, you can't dress this way, you can't be on time, how dare you do this, how dare you, not want to be a gangbanger, how dare you want to, educate yourself, and you're just labeled as, you're acting white, you're too white. And it's been a disincentive for many generations of black people to better themselves, to get out of the Democrat plantation that is the ghettos. I mean, before all of the policies that have been in place, according redlining and all that, black marriages used to be better and stronger and less prone to a divorce than even white ones. There is a time when black people were doing good. And now we have this idea of, terrible marriages in the black community, low IQ and low test scores. And it feeds a narrative that blacks are inherently violent, blacks are inherently stupid, which is just not true. Okay? Yes, you can look at countries in Africa who have room temperature IQs. You got to look at, there's a lot of inbreeding, a lot of Islam over there. But here in America, there's a lot more freedom, a lot more ways to get out, to understand. We have more information in our pockets than at the Library of Alexandria. It's very possible for blacks to, work and get out of where they were. It's possible for anyone. You can't let a victim mentality run you down. But, and Trump knows this, and that's why he's saying the things he says. And also, this is who they ran as a representative for black people and for women in the last election.
And here's the other thing that is quite unprecedented. And it was the tightest, closest presidential election in the 21st century. He does not have a mandate. That is not a mandate.
I can't take that. I can't take that woman. No, it wasn't. You lost. And I said this. What is it with these liberal cunts and thinking they are owed a win and the only way they lost is cheating? You lost, Kamala. You lost. You were a terrible candidate. You did worse than Biden in every conceivable way. But let's look at current black representation in Congress and in government for black people.
Stop falling for the okie doke. Stop believing the lies that they are putting out there and the terrible racist tropes that they are constantly using to rile people up. It is time to recognize that while you thought the enemy was the immigrant, or you thought the enemy was the trans person, or you thought that the enemy was the black folk, or you thought the enemy were the women, when the reality is that the only person that is harming you right now, if you are struggling to make sure that you can pay your bills, if you're struggling to feed your family, if you are struggling to find a job, if you are struggling to keep your business open, or if you are a farmer, while we currently have record level bankruptcies by farmers, it is not any of those people on the list. It is the old white Nepo baby that is sitting in the White House that is causing all the destruction, pain, and problems that you are enduring. Stop falling for the okie doke.
So white people are the problem. And look, you have a point when it comes to the whole Nepo baby thing. I'm not a big fan of a lot of that either. But, well, you want to say, well, the enemy isn't the immigrant. Yeah, it is. The illegal immigrant, anyway. They don't belong here. They cause crime. They kill. They rape. They don't pay taxes. Oh, they're part of the system. They pay into our system. They pay tax. No, they don't. No, they don't. And Trump is not the enemy. You want to talk about old racist tropes? How about the fact that you keep calling everyone you don't like Nazi. You keep calling everyone you don't like Hitler. You keep calling everyone you don't like racist or sexist. Shut up. It's old. And this is proving it. 2024 post-election survey, racial analysis of 2024 election results. I just want to get back down to here. This is Harris and this is Trump. This is net Harris in 2024 and this is net Biden in 2020. If we go down to black men, Harris had 71 and Trump had 24. Now, yes, Harris still has a lot. But let's look at the numbers. Harris's net was plus 47. Biden's was 82. That is a loss of 35. The old white man got more black men to vote for him than the black woman. Let's look at black women. 90 to 7. I'm not real surprised at that. Women do tend to trend left just as a whole. But Harris, the black woman, got 83, whereas Biden, the white man, got 85. Let's see. Donald Trump improved his standing with voters across racial demographics, including white voters from a net of plus 13 in 2020 to a net plus 16, 40% Harris, 56% Trump. Hispanic voters from a net plus 38 in 2020 to a net plus 11, 53% Harris, 42% Trump. Asian Americans, Black Americans, Trump is making grounds with every demographic.
Look how much African American communities have suffered under Democratic control. To those I say the following: what do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump? What do you have to lose? I say it again, what do you have to lose? Look, what do you have to lose? You're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs, 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose?
The old trope of throwing around the term racist isn't working anymore because black people, shockingly, have their own opinions and have their own voice and have their own view of what's going on outside of their rooms, their windows, and their little bubble that you want to push them in. They're noticing that you do not represent them, and you haven't for a long time. They understand that jobs are important. And that's for everyone, jobs are important. To make that a racial thing is so stupid. You give people good jobs, you try and make their gas prices, their food prices go down, and you don't start new wars. What's to lose? Who is going to want that? Everyone in America should want that. It doesn't matter if you're black, white, man, or woman. That's why I always really cringe at the idea of like, oh, we need to get the black vote, we need to get the white vote, we need to get the woman vote. How about you just go for the fucking American vote? I don't care. If I ever ran for office, I'd be like, are you an American? Yes. Will you vote for me? Yes or no? And if no, give me a reason. And if yes, give me a reason. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're white. It's so stupid. I don't even believe in race as a concept. It really is a social construct. It really is. There's ethnicity. There's where you're born, whatever. But race is bullshit. And yet, somehow, someone like me is still going to be tarred with the idea of white supremacist or racist. In order to be a supremacist in a race, to think yours is superior, you kind of got to believe in race as a thing in the first place. But, Democrats, please, keep doing what you're doing, and you will continue to lose voters. Black, white, whatever. Black people are looking at the inner cities. Hispanics are looking at those crossing the border. Shockingly, a lot of Hispanics in this country kind of want a wall. Speak to Cubans down in Miami. They fucking hate communism because they know what it's like. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep letting your cities burn and criminals run free. And let's see how that courts the voters in 2026. My guess is you're going to continue to lose and lose bigly. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Cheers. God bless.